Well, as you all know, I've got the hubs turned for this 8-passenger Yellowstone Park Stagecoach, as the running gear isn't much good without wheels. I did have original hub bands for one hub, but I need to make the hub bands for the other 3. So these outside bands are 2.5 inches, and these inside bands are 1.25 inches. Well, I can bend these 1.25 inches on my bender, but these 2.5s I cannot. As through the throat of this bender, I'm limited to 2 inches. So my 2.5 won't fit through here, but I can bend my 1.25 inches through here to get them to the basic round. The ID of these outer hub bands is only 4.5 inches, maybe a little strong. So it's going to be difficult to bend those cold. I don't have a roller that's small enough. On this roller here, I'm lucky if I can get about a 12 or 14 inch circle. That's about as small as I can go on this one. So if I can get kind of a rough measurement here, like I say, emphasis on the rough, somewhere about 15 inches, it's going to get me somewhat close. Then on the back side, what do I need there? About 18 inches. So I can do the inside hub bands on my bender. These small ones, I'm going to light up the forge and do them that way. So you probably noticed me kind of pushing hard on this shear. It's been a while since I've sharpened the blades on this. And I don't know if I've told you as a community out there the story behind this shear. I have told a few of you that have stopped by to visit. But it was probably 40 years ago. It was shortly after Rick and I split up, so 3 years ago, something like that. I was at a metal salvage yard, and used to be that was my favorite shopping ground. And I could go there and browse through their scrap iron piles. I need to get a hammer to tap that out. And I had noticed this shear in the pile of scraps. And I talked to the yard foreman, and it was no handle, just the shear itself. And I said, "What do you want for that shear?" $25. Well, I had just bought a chop saw, a different brand, but a chop saw, and I thought, well, you know, that shear, that's kind of an antique old rascal. I don't know if I really want that. So I didn't buy it. And I proceeded for probably another 20 years. And I went back and forth to this salvage yard, because like I say, it's a favorite shopping ground of mine. And the same yard foreman was still there. I had got to know him over the years, and I noticed that this shear was sitting in the same place in that yard. And hadn't moved, hadn't changed. I said, "What do you want for that shear?" $25. This is now 20 years later. I said, "Well, I think I'll take it." So I brought it home, and it didn't have any blades on it, and it didn't have this handle on it, But those are two things that were pretty easy to make. So I ran it through the sandblaster and cleaned it up. I made a couple of these blades. Just dropped that bolt. If I remember, I think these are 4140, could be a 1045 or 1065. I don't remember for sure. But it made me a couple blades, and as you can tell, over time they get kind of beat over on the corners, and what's hardest on these is when I shear round stock. That's what curls this corner. So one other time I've had to stop and sharpen these, and it looks like I need to do it again. And they have a little bluing to them. Looks like maybe I had even tried to temper these. But interestingly enough, then now 20 years later, which was probably 20 years ago now, I use this shear a lot, as you have seen me over the years. And the thing that I like about it the most is you don't lose any material. It's just a big pair of scissors for steel. And so I can mark on a line just like I did and cut on those lines. Whereas if I use a chop saw, I have to account for that 1/8 of an inch, give or take, of material that I lose in every cut. So I really do like this, and it's always been kind of an interesting conversation piece, how 20 years later it was still sitting there, and now it's become a fixture in my shop. Well, this is the top blade, and I'm actually going to try to temper that. It was pretty beat up, so maybe I can harden that just a bit. So you see it coming into that straw look there. I'm going to go past it, I'll cool it off, and then we'll bring it back to that straw. The straw is about where you would put a cold chisel at. See, they were at a blue now. And go past that to gray, and might get just a little hint of red started in it. And I'll quench it and then come back and actually temper it. Yeah, the blue's going away. So that's about the temperature that I would heat a tire up when I'm getting ready to set it on a wheel. Take it all the way up through those colors. That's about 900 degrees. When you start to see red, you're at 1500 degrees. With that flat gray there, we're 1000-ish. And we'll focus a little more on that cutting edge. We don't want this brittle hard. I think I'm going to take it in there, I'll quench it, and I'll polish that face off, and come back and temper it down. That's really what tempering is all you know. You harden it and then you temper it back. I'm going to polish that face off, and then I'll come back and temper to that straw. It's just starting to come into that brown straw color. And go right there. That's what I was looking for, that brown to straw color. That'll be about the hardness of a cold chisel, which should work for these shears. That sits right in there. This is a bit in the way. This is an attachment I put into this bar. This bar here is designed to hold the steel down while you're making the shear so that it doesn't curl up on you and end up jamming in the jaws. That almost sounds like a poem, doesn't it? Jamming in the jaws. Anyway, I put this on here so that I can adjust the length of this. I use it predominantly when I'm cutting off lengths of steel that I'm turning into wagon bow clips. Then I can bump up against this and make a lot of repetitive cuts without having to do all the measuring. This speeds up the process. Yeah, we should be good to go again. Let's see if it cuts a little easier this time. The metal for these inside bands I want to be 18 inches. That makes a nice clean cut. So these are the ones that I cut first before I sharpened those blades. And that face is real rough. And the face on these now is really pretty smooth. It was time to sharpen some blades. Well, you can see on the side of this shear it said Edwards and Shear. And this is a number 5A. And then on the other side you can see Albert Lee, Minnesota, where it was produced. So I started to do some looking around and I found these listed on Rucker's vintage machinery site. There were a couple of them, this number 5 and then also there was a number 10. This one seems to be rated for 1/2 inch thick, 4 inches wide. I've never tried to cut anything over 3/8. And then the number 10 I guess goes up to 3/4. So they seem to be in that 1911, 12. On Vintage Machinery, there was an ad in there, I think it said 1912. And that ad said we've been making shears for 20 years. So anywhere from the late 1890s to early 1900s. Who knows where this shear was made. I don't know if it actually has a serial number on it. I don't think I remember seeing it when I was cleaning it up. It has an E cast over here, but that's the only other thing I've seen. But really a handy shear. I didn't think I would use it. I bypassed it, thought, nah, I don't think so. And then 20 years later thinking, maybe I should think so. And it's been here ever since. So then I was kind of curious, are they still available? Obviously not new. But I did find some old ones that were in the same condition that this was when I found it 20 plus years ago. Rusted up, jaws missing, handle was gone. This one has had some repair work done on it, but it has worked fine. They were listed, I think I saw one on eBay for 550 bucks. Makes this $25 special look pretty good, doesn't it? You know, over the years, I have spent so much focus time on getting work done that I haven't taken the time to look into this history of some of the tools that I have. You know, a few videos back, I looked into this 1914 South Bend pedal-operated metal lathe. It was pretty cool. Well, I got to digging a little bit more on this Edwards Shear, and there was an Edwards manufacturing company in Albert Lea, and come to find out, they're still operating. This was started by a Charles Douglas Edwards, and I guess he started in 1875. Began with some ditching equipment, and since that was seasonal, he got into more metalworking stuff. So this shear most likely is probably 1900, 1910, 11. This article that I looked up and found on Vintage Machinery site was a 1911 advertisement. So it's in that 1910 era somewhere. It's known as an alligator shear, and it has evolved in today what is some pretty sophisticated ironworking stations, punching and shears and metal bending as what they still focus on today. So that's been really kind of interesting, and here I have a little junkyard $25 piece of history sitting in this shop that was probably pretty common in a lot of the hometown blacksmith shops of that time. And here it is now in this little small hometown blacksmith shop as well. Kind of fun. I haven't got my hub bands bent yet. I still need to do that. It was kind of just fun to get into this shear and look into the history of it. Hope you enjoyed it as well. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.